You are listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Aaron Walker and Heather Dyer.
We're on a mission to inspire other home cooks just like us to be brave and try something new. Let's learn to cook better and eat great food. Ta-da! Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Three Kitchens Podcast. I'm your host, Heather Dyer, and with me is your other host, Aaron Walker. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Heather. How are you this fine day?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
I'm feeling all the positive vibes out there right now. Spring is in the air. We've had some amazing guests over the last couple weeks. I'm just feeling all the good feels.
Yeah, we've managed to find some very positive, uplifting people with good stuff to share. That's been a lot of fun.
Can I just say that is my favorite part, is all the positive, good stuff that comes out of this. I love it.
I know.
Makes me feel better every day.
Yes. And the community and the friendships. And yeah, food makes people happy. Okay, well, recently I'd seen an article, Bon Appetit magazine, where the writer claimed they prefer chocolate chip cookies without the chocolate chips.
You told me about this, and I had all sorts of what?
Your face is just sort of like, if you were to say something, your face says, It's kind of like,
That might be genetic. I can hear my mom and my grandma saying,
Okay. So of course, they posted it on Instagram, and then there was a whole debate in the comments from people saying, "Oh, I totally agree. I love just a plain cookie with no chocolate chips."
So what are they calling them? If it's a chocolate chip cookie sans chocolate chips, I mean, that was just a huge mouthful of unnecessary words.
I know. That was part of the debate. People were like, well, then what are you calling it? Like, is it just a sugar cookie? But I would debate that because that's not my definition of a sugar cookie.
No.
Like, what is it? Nobody seemed to have a name for it.
Is it a drop cookie?
Well, it is a drop cookie.
Because it's a drop cookie with butter, sugar, flour, eggs.
Right? It's just weird. It's weird. The whole conversation, the article, clearly just written to get conversation going, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. The person who wrote it's probably sitting back going, I actually like chocolate chips, but I thought I'd write an article to like get shit stirred up.
Their editor was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read. Well, we'll run it anyway. We're out of content.
We got nothing else this week.
All right, Shelley, you're on deck. I like creating, I like silly controversies like this that get people fired up. Like, one of my favorite food, maybe not controversies, but things people get fired up about is, what type of apple do you use in your apple pie?
Oh, gosh.
They posed this question once on a food show callback radio thing, and like, the lines were on fire, Heather. People were like, you don't ever use anything but a Granny Smith. Oh, God, no. How could you say that? The best is black. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah. See, that's kind of like harmless, sort of. You're really not insulting the other person who prefers a different kind of apple.
Some of these fun food controversies are very enjoyable, though. I do every once in a while enjoy going down these rabbit holes. So I'm glad that you brought my attention to the cookie.
The chocolate chip less chocolate chip cookie. It's so ridiculous.
Still too many words. No, I could eat all of the chocolate chip less cookies in the time it took me to say chocolate chip less chocolate chip cookies.
It's starting to sound like nonsense now. It's not even like real words anymore.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, well, personally, if I'm going to choose this cookie with or without the chocolate, I want the chocolate.
Yeah.
And lots of it.
Duh.
Duh.
I want lots of chocolate. I want different types of chocolate.
Hmm.
Ooh, I want peanut butter and chocolate.
Nuts and chocolate.
Nuts and chocolate.
Yeah, all the things. Okay, so I'm not just going to make you a chocolate chip cookie without the chocolate chips. That's not what we're doing. But
Wow, really pushing out your skills here, Heather.
I'm going to stumble over it one of these times for sure. It got me thinking, okay, because I wouldn't eat just that plain cookie. I mean, listen, if you handed it to me, I probably, let's be real here, I probably would still eat it just because that's me.
I
But
mean, we've all had the chocolate chip cookie that didn't get any of the chocolate chips
didn't
in
get
it,
enough. Yeah,
right? Like you pick up the cookie and you're like, the kids do this, right? They're always looking at them. They're like, oh,
yeah.
this one has the most chocolate chips after they've handled all the cookies.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And they leave the one that only got like one or two for you.
Exactly.
So it's not that it's bad. It's not a bad cookie. It's just
No.
not as good. And it got me thinking about what could I put into that basic cookie if I'm taking out the chocolate?
Ooh.
What could I put in instead?
Huh.
So my hope is that I will find some creative add-ins. Nothing chocolate
Ah.
because we're trying to, I mean, yes, you could take chocolate plus, like we just said, you could add things
Mhm.
with chocolate that are really good. But I want to do something without any chocolate and just try maybe something I haven't had before and really mix it up and see what we get and if how we like it.
Hmm.
So I have a couple of ideas percolating, but I'm not really sure where I'm going to go yet.
Okay.
One thing that's occurring to me is that if you think about ice cream that you like and the types of flavors and things that are put into a basic ice
Mm.
cream, maybe you could apply that to a pretty basic cookie.
Right. Okay. So if we're going to talk about chocolate chip cookies without chocolate chips, there are different varieties in the cookie texture.
Yes.
And so where do you land in your preferred? And I think we'll make a scale here. It's the very buttery, flat, chewy, bendy chocolate chip cookie to a thick, floury, crumbly cookie.
Well, I was going to say I'm in the middle, but no, I'm a little bit more left of center. So like more thin and
Hmm.
I like it a little crispy on the edges, but definitely like chewy on the inside. I
Yeah.
don't love a thick, cakey sort
Crumbly.
of crumbly cookie.
Okay. Okay. I also,
That makes
okay.
sense?
Yep. Okay. Yep. We're on the same page then.
Okay, so if I remember correctly,
Yes.
you have made both these types of cookie. Do you remember this? Did you do it for an episode or just for fun?
I think I just did it for fun and put a post together. So we'll see if we can dig that up and
Yeah, for
okay.
sure. And meanwhile, I'll think of some add-ins that will be different, new. I don't know yet what they'll be.
Yeah, this is a curious thought.
Hmm.
I'm quite excited to see where you take this. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, wish me luck.
go and create. Hey listeners, we'd really like to hear what you have to say about this one. What kind of things would you put in a chocolate chip cookie if you weren't putting in chocolate chips? Or are you of the opinion that a chocolate chip cookie shouldn't be messed with? Come join us on Instagram and Facebook at Three Kitchens Podcast and share your ideas with us. We love to talk about cookies. All right, let's get back to this episode and find out what Heather put into hers.
We're talking about cookies.
Chocolate chipless chocolate chip cookies, which is
That's
how I
right.
advertised them to my family when I decided to open the bag up for sharing. And they
Oh,
looked at me like I grew two heads. It was fantastic.
and my kids are like, well, then you should call it the whatever you did put in them. I'm like, listen, it's just for fun.
Like,
Okay.
come on, we're getting in those really hard-hitting debates that come up once in a generation.
Is a chocolate chip cookie better with or without chocolate chips? That is the big debate. Oof.
Oh boy,
Tough.
fighting words here. We are getting really intense.
Dial it back. Deep breaths. Deep
We try to
breaths,
keep this
everybody.
light, but today we just had to go there.
Oh my God. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I made cookies twice because the first batch that I made didn't work. They were like little round puck kind of Did I give you some of those too? I think they were in the, were they in the bag? Were there some of those in the bag? I can't even remember
Well,
now.
did you put any flavors in them?
Yeah. Anyway,
Maybe.
it didn't really matter. I won't go into too much
Okay.
detail there, but I tried it this one day. I don't know what was going on. I like them, we talked about this earlier. We like them to kind of flatten out a little bit and get kind of crispy on the edge. And anyway, they were just
Hmm.
like little round, they kind of stayed the balls that I plopped onto the tray. Okay, so let me tell you what I put in them. I split it
Okay.
in half,
Hmm.
cookie dough in half, before I put my not chocolate chips in. One half I put in espresso powder and chopped nuts.
Oh, okay.
The
Okay.
other half I used rhubarb.
Ah,
Did you catch either of those things? Any of
absolutely,
them?
I did.
Okay. Okay.
I knew it was the coffee and I knew it was the rhubarb.
But did you notice they were kind of
They
weird?
didn't have the same
They
texture as the
didn't.
other two cookies. And I thought maybe it had to do with because we had talked about coffee and you were thinking of maybe putting in coffee. And I wondered if there was like a change in the liquid content that did this. But no, it was just
I think
weird
though,
cookie dough.
yeah, it was just, it turned out weird. But I do see your point in that I think espresso powder probably would absorb some of the moisture that's in your dough, and it would be a different texture because of that. But rhubarb does have moisture. So I'm not sure why they turned out basically the same. I got nothing for you. I don't know.
Strange things. But yes, I did pick that out.
Okay, so then I was like, this is not what I was going for. I'm not really happy with these cookies, even though everybody gobbled up the rhubarb cookies like quicker than I could. Like,
Mm.
I guess it's because I don't make cookies very often. So when I do, they're all like, there's cookies? Plus, it was the weekend and everybody was home, and so they got gobbled up. But nobody in my house likes coffee except moi. So I
Mm.
got to eat all the other ones, which, I mean, they weren't really the kind of cookie that I would go out and seek, but
Hmm.
because I had them there, of course I was going to eat them. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not savage. Come on, like I had to eat them.
My standards aren't so high that I'm not going to eat these cookies.
Who am I not to eat cookies?
No,
Okay,
I liked so out of those two, I definitely liked the coffee better. Is going to be my even though I am a lover of the rhubarb in all shapes and forms, I did like the coffee one quite a bit.
I think the rhubarb would have worked in the second batch, which was a
Maybe.
different recipe. I think it would have worked. All right, so I chose a different recipe when I made the second batch. I just thought something didn't happen right, so I'm gonna
Aha.
switch it up.
Okay, so if it wasn't the same recipe, then yes, I think yeah.
Let's basically disregard the first batch because they were sort of just the fail.
But the flavors were good. I liked the flavors in the rhubarb one, and I liked the flavors in the coffee one. I think those are both valid chips to
Add-ins,
put into your
chips with air quotes.
chips with air quotes. I don't know. What are
Yeah,
chunks? I don't know. I don't want to say
I
chunks.
think
That
it's
just
just an
doesn't sound
add-in.
yummy.
Yeah, I agree.
They were both really good with that. So I think this dough goes well with other things in it. So coffee and rhubarb, ding ding. Thumbs up.
Okay, but use this recipe, and I will post this recipe because I think
Okay.
it seemed to work quite well. So this recipe was a fairly typical, except for one thing that was a little bit different to me, anyways. So you cream together. This one has butter, both white and brown sugar in equal amounts. You know, 2 eggs, vanilla. But then it has 1 teaspoon baking soda dissolved in 2 teaspoons of hot water, and you put that in. Never seen
Very
it
cool.
before. Had you?
Nope,
No.
that's a brand new.
That was the only difference that from a typical kind of chocolate chip cookie recipe. Then, of course, you have your flour and your add-ins. So pretty typical, except for that one little thing. So I weighed it, split my dough into two, and I put in one half, I did dehydrated kiwi. So I had cut the peel off, chopped the kiwi into, I sort of aimed for kind of like chocolate chunk size or
Mhm.
chocolate chip size pieces. And then I put them in my dehydrator and just sort of eyeballed it. I honestly don't know how long it was. It probably varies according to your appliance or if you put them in the oven.
Mhm.
But I didn't completely dehydrate them. So normally if I do kiwi, I slice them
Okay,
quite
right.
thin and I dehydrate them completely so that they keep, they're not sticky.
Okay, yeah.
They're like dehydrated, they're dried fruit.
Yeah.
In this case, I wanted to keep a bit of moisture. I just didn't, I was worried that if I put kiwi straight into it, it would just sort of get mushed, you know?
Yeah. I
And
think
I think
dehydrating them kind of seals it so that you can do other stuff with it.
so you can keep it in its little piece. And I think it was
Hmm.
you had suggested to me that that would be good. I think it was your idea. Anyway, kudos to you because as it turns out, dried kiwi in a cookie, fantastic.
That was quite a pop of flavor. That was like, wow.
I would have enjoyed more, actually. Like
It
next time, I will make more of the kiwi.
it went really good in there.
Yeah, it was so good. I just
Who
thought
knew?
this, like, yeah, who knew? What a discovery. It was so good.
Oh,
Um,
dehydrated kiwis though, as a
oh,
discovery in total, when you started making those with your
mm,
dehydrator, I was like, nothing is better than this now.
it's like
Like,
candy.
it really is.
Yeah, it's almost like because it's so sweet and like you said, like that kind of hit of flavor. It's
Yeah.
almost like that when you eat a gummy candy and it's sort of like, woo.
Hmm.
Except
It's
of
like
course it's
sweet and sour and
yeah.
just like that really intense flavor. And it's got that little bit of like crunch from the seeds too,
I
which
like
is
that.
always good.
Oh, I was like, this is a winner. I am putting kiwi, and my family was all over it. They're like, what is in here? Love these cookies. Yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
my kids also super enjoyed that.
Highly recommend everyone. The other half of the dough, I did dates. So I had, I guess they're dried, right? When you buy the dates in the, normally you'd have to, depending what you're making, you might soak them in hot water and rehydrate them.
Hmm.
I just cut out the pits, chopped them as best I could into, again, that same kind of size. They're very sticky, as anyone who's ever worked with dates
Right.
knows. So I sprinkled cinnamon on them and sort of tossed them a bit to get them a bit coated
Ah,
with the cinnamon, which made them a little easier to
more
handle.
individual sized rather than
A
the
lump.
clump.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. That's an
So
interesting idea.
I put the dates with cinnamon into the cookie, and then just before I put them in the oven, I sprinkled them with some sesame seeds, and that was batch number two.
Those ranked as my favorite.
Yeah, they're good.
I couldn't get over how, like I said that I shared with my family, but I only shared three of the kinds of cookies with my family. After I
Nice.
had one of each, I was like, hmm. And I went and I picked out the ones that had the sesame seeds. I said, okay, guys, here you go. And I
I'm
kept those
keeping
off to them.
these for myself.
That
Mm.
is, that, in my opinion, is the perfect flavor to go in these cookies. It all just matched so well. I thought for a second that you might have put almond flavoring in it because it almost smelt almond like, which
Oh,
I mean, it just must be the sugars from the dates mixing in there. And while I do enjoy dates, I don't get to eat them all the time. So maybe it's something I just didn't notice in their normal aroma, but it smelled
that's interesting.
almost almondy.
And I think you could sub
Oh,
the
yeah.
vanilla and do an almond extract.
Yeah. And the little sesame seeds on there, sold.
So my husband said, "Oh, I tried some of those cookies you had here." And I was like, "Oh, which one did you like better?" And he goes, "I like the raisin cookies." And I was like, "There were no raisins." He's like, "There weren't?" No, they were dates. And he's like, "Oh, I can't believe I thought those are raisins. I love dates. Like dates are better than raisins. Why did I think they were raisins?" So I think they have a similar
Mm.
texture in a cookie.
Yeah.
No, well, actually, now that I say that, not quite. They're a bit like
They're softer
um
though. And
soft.
they're,
Yeah,
yeah, they're different in there.
they're
I
not
love
wrinkly
those.
like a raisin. But
No.
so you could put dates into like an oatmeal cookie, I think would be, because I love an
Mm.
oatmeal raisin cookie. I think dates would even like level it up.
I just made oatmeal raisin muffins last night, Heather. Why didn't you call me and tell me to put dates in
But you
instead?
ate the cookie. You could have thought of it. You'd eaten the cookies already.
You could have thought of it yourself.
I didn't know you were making muffins. Oh, that was
So fantastic.
a winner all around.
I think I'm going to redefine the chocolate chip cookie as the cookie with add-ins because really almost anything goes in there.
It needs a different name.
Yeah.
Or every time you make, it's like the kiwi, we're making kiwi cookies, or I'm making date cookies, or I'm making like, you'll just have to call them by whatever you put in them, maybe.
Yeah, because they really can deliver a wide variety of flavors with them since it's such a basic base.
Hmm.
And I like all the things that you went with, but for sure that the date and sesame, I don't know. That was it for
Mm.
me.
I'm so glad you liked it. I loved both. I wish I'd had more kiwis in the kiwi
Mm,
cookies, but next time I'll just have to
next
make
time.
more kiwis. But I would love to try all kinds of things. I want listeners to tell us what they're
Yeah,
putting in chocolate chip cookies without chocolate chips. What are you putting in instead?
all the toppings.
All the things. I want to hear about. I want ideas because I loved it so much. But then I'll eat too many cookies and then I'll.
Well, it sounds like your family will eat too many cookies and you'll just have to like save some off to the side in hopes of getting them too.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mm.
There you go. We have answered the age-old question.
And
What
the
do you
answer
put?
is chocolate chips are good and other things are also good.
Yeah.
Personally, I would not have it just plain with nothing added in.
Right, we didn't actually try
Yeah.
the no
The
nothing cookie.
it's a good it's a good cookie, I guess. It's just not as fun as having like some really yummy little bit
You
of
have to have those little
something.
pops in there that add that extra flavor that are like, so good.
Ooh, can we quickly, speaking of like interesting cookie add-ins,
Mm.
can we quickly talk about your shortbread that you made
Oh, yeah.
recently?
So I got a recipe from I'm gonna call her my good Norwegian friend.
I think you would be good friends if you
I
lived in
think
the same
so, right?
continent. Yeah.
Spoke the same language.
Yeah.
We'd be out with our foraging basket. Nevada Berg wrote a cookbook about Norwegian baking, and so much of the food in there is foraged and found foods. And she has a recipe for dandelion shortbread cookies. And shortbread, I've decided, is also a great cookie to put add ins to. And so I made her dandelion shortbread. It was a winner. It got eaten. I didn't even get some to you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make it again. And
Thank you.
I made two batches. I
Mm.
made one with the dandelions, and then I made another one with crushed juniper berries in it. And lilac season is getting really close in my backyard, so I'm gonna try making it with those too. So hopefully by the time this comes out, I have accomplished that, and we can
Oh, I can't
also
wait.
write back about the lilac in shortbread because all of it is delicious.
Oh, I was like, I've never eaten dandelions.
Not the flower part, no, the yellow flower part.
Yeah, I've eaten a leaf here or there. Like it's like a green, like a salad leaf, it's nothing like amazing.
When you say you've eaten a leaf here and there, it just sounds like you're walking through your yard like, oh, much, much, much.
No, but I've
All right.
tried them. I didn't think
Yes.
like, oh, this is so fantastic. I want a heart. No, I still pluck them out of my yard. Yeah, that said, I'd never eaten the yellow flower. I didn't know until, I mean, I knew you could like make wine or
There's like syrups you can make with it and like dandelion tea.
yeah, I'd heard of like processing it somewhat to make something out of it, but not just eating it.
Yeah.
So this cookie has these little yellow flecks in it,
Yeah.
which is the dandelion flower, and it has this sort of like, I want to say grassy, almost like that fresh cut grass smell is if that were a flavor.
Yeah.
It's almost like that, but it's super subtle and
It's
it's
a very mild
yeah.
flavor and it in this shortbread recipe, the main sugar is honey.
Mm.
And with that sweet honey and that grassy cut grass flavor,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what it is.
They were so good. I didn't know what to expect, but
No,
oh,
I've got some strong feelings towards all these foraged and
mm.
found foods that you can cook with. And it's one reason I'm really in love with her cookbook, which I got like a year ago.
You have
So,
made quite a few things. You've made some other things for the podcast out of it as well.
yeah.
And speaking of, I was going to say like those juniper buns, but speaking of
Mm.
juniper, in these cookies, you and I both are like big fans of the juniper. It's
I put
so
a lot of
good.
juniper in that
Oh,
cookie.
delicious.
It was fantastic. There were some
Oh,
big chunks in there that you could just chew on.
oh, there's something about those juniper berries. A friend of mine was like, don't eat too much juniper. It's bad for your liver. And I was like, it is? Well, what about all the gin? I kind of know gin is bad for my liver, but I was like, don't take away the juniper berries too. It's not in such excess that you're gonna like damage your liver or something.
Gosh, I hope not.
No, no. Oh, so good. You know what else would be good is like lavender or
Ooh.
it is kind of subtle until you hit like that pop of a juniper berry or what like
Yeah.
oh, so good.
Yeah.
Love
There,
it.
it's a really good, flexible recipe. I would recommend. She's on Facebook and she shares a lot of her recipes. So go check that out.
Yeah, and always be careful if you're using foraged or found ingredients that it's not been like sprayed with pesticides or
Maybe don't pick the dandelions at the dog park.
no, no. Or at the public park where they put the signs up that they're spraying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think any of these edible flavors, putting them in a shortbread like that just looks so like fancy pants. It makes it so special.
Delicious. Oh, can't wait. This was like all the good cookies.
Mm. Well, if you haven't baked cookies in a while, I think we have quite a few recommendations.
We do. Get creative and then come and tell us
Yeah.
what you're putting in because chocolate chips, they're good and all, but, but
So uncreative.
you can do better.
And now for the fine print. Links to recipes and other things we talked about in this episode can be found in the show notes or on our website, www.threekitchenspodcast.com. Come say hello on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok. We'd love to connect. And if you enjoy the show, pass it on. Word of mouth is the #1 way people learn about new podcasts. Thank you so much for listening.
Who really measures chocolate chips when they make cookies? Like